Hello, my beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of the Alchemist Babe podcast, where we talk about all things mindset, manifestation, motherhood, and so much more, giving you back the power that you deserve and becoming the alchemist of your life. This episode is for everybody that feels like you're in the same cycle over and over and over again. And every time that you hit a new level of happiness, you hit a new level of money, you hit a new, level of love in your relationship or your self-love for yourself, you find yourself being pulled back into your old ways, into your old suffering. Something happens that brings you back down to where you were before. Bills come out, arguments start, there's always something that pulls you back to a familiar suffering. And subconsciously, we're doing this because we feel unworthy of things becoming better. We're like, it's never really been this good, or good things happen, and when they do, something bad always comes after. And we have these beliefs. But the goal is to raise the limits and raise the ceilings that we've been put into our life and that we don't even realize are there sometimes, so that we can expand and have more, so that we can get a raise and not have all these extra bills come out, so that we can have a healthy relationship and not always argue in the evening after something amazing happens, so that good things can happen and bad things don't have to happen immediately after. For me personally, the biggest thing that I see this happen, my limits happen, is when unexpected money comes into my life. It's like the moment I get a bonus, or just like a bigger tax return, or just like some new clients and they pay me more, just something happens, it's almost like immediately there is an unexpected bill, or something breaks down with my car, or I just have to, like a health expense. There's something that usually had followed every single time. And it wasn't until I brought awareness to this that I started to feel safe in the uncomfortability of receiving more, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, did the limits start to be raised. Same thing with having a healthy relationship. It's like you're so used to a suffering, you're so used to, being treated a certain way. So then when somebody comes into your life that's treating you better, you're like, it's never really this good. Like, it's too good to be true. And you'll start to like nitpick that person apart, or see all of their flaws, or start arguments over nothing. And you, honest to God, a lot of the times you don't even realize you're doing this. We find ourselves asking, like, why can't I have more money? Or why do these bills keep coming? Or, why can't I just enjoy life and have these levels of happiness and not argue immediately after, or whatever it may be. It can even come when you're super motivated, you feel like you're on a roll, everything's going well, life is going great, you have, all these new things that you're starting up, and then all of a sudden you get sick, and then you're bedridden for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it may be. And this happened to me recently, where I felt like I had a lot of motivation, good things were happening, I was just like on fire, and then all of a sudden Augustus gets sick, my son gets sick, and then a couple days later I get sick, so we're all just completely stopped. We're put on hold. We can't do anything because we're just completely sick. And this happens to me all the time, unfortunately, because I'm not somebody that used to take time for myself, a lot of self-care. My body would just make me. And that's a lot of times what happens when you get sick, is you're going too much and you've forgotten to take care of yourself, to slow down for a minute. And since you won't do it, your body's like, I'm going to make you sick, so that you have to take time for yourself, so that you have to slow down, so that you have to take a break, right? But these are forms of us hitting our upper limits, hitting the ceiling that we've placed for ourselves, that now let's break through them. Let's raise the ceiling and have more. And the concept of upper limits, Gay Hendrick wrote about it in one of his books, where he talks about this. He talks about having an internal thermostat. And basically, as your thermostat gets too hot, it wants to regulate itself back down to something that feels safe, or something that isn't as hot. And our upper limits, our ceilings that we place, are doing the exact same thing. The thermostat is what we've told ourselves what is safe to feel, what we are allowed to feel, and anything above that is not safe. And our goal is to return us back to this safe level of feeling. Like, if you've only felt a certain level of happiness in your life, a certain level of joy, and one day comes and you just feel like ecstatic about the joy, or you've had multiple days in a row where you're starting to feel really, really good, then all of a sudden your nervous system is like, wait, we're not used to this. This isn't safe for us. We haven't made this new level of happiness and this quantity of happiness safe. Let me wreck it so that I can bring me back down to somewhere that is safe. your nervous system and your body will go into like this self-protecting mode, and you'll end up self-sabotaging to bring yourself back. Because what you're doing when you hit these new levels is you're actually leveling up your frequency. We talk about everything is energy, and that you have a frequency that places you on a certain field of what you're allowed to experience in your realm. And as you increase your frequency, as you start to get more, you raise your frequency, these new opportunities, these blessings come to you, these more money comes to you, happiness comes to you, joy, all of these things. But your old frequency, the one that you felt safe with, the one that you felt comfortable with, is now in panic mode because you're escaping, you're going somewhere new, you're doing something better, and it wants to pull you back. You want to self-sabotage back to a place where you feel comfortable. I'm going to give you guys some tips also on when you raise your frequency, how to feel safe in this space. Your nervous system can feel relaxed there, because that's really what it is the emotions that you're feeling, having your nervous system relax in the new space that you're in, so that you don't get pulled back and self-sabotage to where you were before. That cycle that you keep playing over and over and over and over and over again, that now you have to break through from. Gay Hendricks talks about 4 different fundamental beliefs that are like the root causes that keep pulling you back into your safe zone. And as I list these off, think about which ones are really resonating with you so that you can build the awareness and take the proper steps to dissolve these beliefs and really expand. Now, the first one is the belief that you are fundamentally flawed, which in reality, you're not flawed, but this can be the root belief. For example, say that you get a dream client or a new client that you're super excited about, but instead of being excited about the fact that you got that good client and proud of yourself and enjoying that moment, you immediately bring yourself into a place and tell yourself, I only got it because I was the only option. Like there must have been somebody else that was ahead of me that they were supposed to get and they just couldn't because X, Y, and Z. Like I'm not good enough and I shouldn't have gotten this client, and it just so happens that I did. Or you get complimented as being a mom of, oh my gosh, you're so patient, you're so like you're doing such an incredible job as a mom. Like you look like you're holding it together amazingly. And instead of receiving that compliment, being grateful about it, feeling those emotions, you immediately go, oh no, I'm not perfect. No, I was terrible yesterday. You should have seen the way that I screamed at my kids. You downplay your wins. You brush them off as if they're nothing because you believe, no, I'm really not that good. Like I don't want you to think that I'm actually good because I'm not, I'm flawed. And that's truly what you're telling people when they compliment you or they say good things about you, and you brush them off and then immediately go to, what's wrong with you and why they shouldn't consider you good at whatever it may be. Maybe even you pass up on opportunities because you're like, oh, I would mess it up anyways. Like I'm not good enough anyways. And these opportunities are coming to you. So the universe has been like, yeah, you're good enough. Like here is that job that you wanted. Here's that client that you wanted. Here's that, that big opportunity, whatever it may be. And you're like, no, I'm not going to take it because I'll probably fuck it up. Like why are we doing this to ourselves? Because the root is you don't think you're good enough. You don't think you're worthy enough. You think that you're flawed, which you're not. You're so far from it. But these are one of the roots that let's dig up and get rid of. Let's dissolve it so that we can raise our limits. Now, the second one that he talks about is feeling like if you succeed, you're going to be disloyal to the people around you. Like growing feels sabotaging to your family if you outgrow them. If you make more money, you feel guilty because the rest of your family doesn't make as much money as you. If you get healthier, you feel guilty because the rest of your family has always been overweight. And you find yourself self-sabotaging, downplaying your wins because it now makes you different from everything that you've known growing up. And you and your family or your friends that have held on to this belief, they're so loyal to this belief of, we're a poor family, we don't make a lot of money, we're unhealthy, we're overweight, we're big boned, we've all heard a lot of people talk about we're just big boned, and this is the struggle that all of our generations have had. We all struggle with the same thing, and we're so loyal to this, and they're gripping onto it. And for you to be the first one to be like, actually, I want to let that go. Like, I don't want to be overweight anymore. I would love to be healthy. I want to make more money. I want to have a good savings. I want to have investments. I want to, have my business. I want to expand beyond these limiting beliefs that all of these generations before me has had. And because your family is so loyal to the struggle that they're in, as you begin to leave, you start to feel guilty because you're leaving everybody behind, or you feel like you're leaving them behind. But what you don't realize is your success is allowed to inspire your family and friends. You don't have to hold on to the same suffering that everybody else is. And it is okay to be a little bit different because you're choosing a new path and a different path. We go through school and our goal is to fit in, basically. We're taught to fit in. And if you don't fit in, then you're an outcast and you're made fun of. And so it can be the same feeling of changing who you are, changing the clothing that you wear, changing the way that you speak, changing your dreams, your goals, so that you can fit in. And you don't want to leave that circle of friends and safeness and comfort zone that you've created, because it makes you feel accepted. And we do the same things with our families when we're growing outside of and starting to attract healthy relationships with friends, with loved ones, with partners. But everybody that are our parents, our grandparents, our aunts and uncles, they've all had unhealthy relationships. They've all been in toxic places. They've all been divorced, whatever it may be. And we feel guilty for expressing the level of love and happiness that we have in our relationship. And so we downplay our wins, or we don't want to talk about them. We don't want to seem like we're overdoing it. Okay. That's number 2. Number 3 is you have a belief and a root that if you succeed more, you're going to have bigger burdens. You're going to have bigger responsibilities, and it's a burden to have those responsibilities. So you find yourself playing small because of that. And a lot of people do this when it comes to starting a business or making investments or growing even their business bigger, because they're worried about paying more taxes, or they're worried about just like taxes in general when it comes down to running your own business. So they don't even start because there's a responsibility down the line that they're unsure of. And so it's easier to stay in the safe zone, to stay in the comfort zone and not start, because then they don't have to deal with that down the line. Or maybe you're worried about, building your business bigger, taking on more clients, starting something up, because you're going to take time away from your children. You're going to have to answer more emails. You're going to have to answer more clients. You're going to have to be on more calls, and it's going to pull time away from your family. And you're just not ready for that change and that level of responsibility. And so you don't grow to the next level. I can definitely feel this, especially being as a mom and starting to create more content and post on YouTube and post on Spotify, all these things. It's like, I feel like it's going to take time away from my kids, but also I can't let that stop me. I can't let that be the reason why I have this ceiling that's holding me back down from growing to another level. And the last one, number 4, that is a root belief, is that you are afraid to outshine others. You feel like outshining others is a bad thing. Maybe you have siblings and you were told by your mom or your dad or whoever when you came home, and maybe you got a better mark than your brother or your sister, and your mom's like, you know what, don't gloat about it too much. Don't gloat about it, because your sister or brother isn't as smart in that area. Like don't outshine them. Or you're doing really good in a sport, but they're like, don't brag about it because you're making so and so feel bad. And I don't even think a lot of times our parents realize that they're doing this to us, but it's creating this fear of being smart, being athletic, being talented, being amazing at something is now a bad thing because I don't fit in anymore, or I'm making other people feel bad. And so you dim your light, you dim your personality, you quiet down, you put yourself into a box, into a shell, because you've been told and conditioned that anything outside of that, anything big, is not good enough. It's not safe. You're too loud, you're too opinionated, right? Like I think a lot of us have heard this, of just being too much. And so you dim everything about you to fit in and to be safe in these spaces. Or something else that you'll do if you have this rooted belief is when something really exciting happens and somebody's like, oh, that's amazing. You're like, no, it's really not that big of a deal. Like, it's really small. Like, you make a really big win seem like something so minuscule when everybody knows it was a pretty big win. Like, it was an incredible thing that you just achieved, but you don't want anybody to feel less than what they are. And so you downplay it. You make yourself feel like it wasn't that big of a deal. It's really small. Anybody could have done it. Like, you don't You don't agree, and you don't soak up the gratitude and the happiness, and you don't allow yourself to feel that peak happiness and that joy that comes from, making more money and achieving something incredible because of these beliefs that you have. And all of these are examples of self-sabotaging to bring yourself back down into that safe, comfortable zone, that thermostat to regulate yourself so that you're not uncomfortable. You hit this limit and let's bring you back down. So it's time to shift and expand the ceiling that you've placed on yourself. In all of these, whether you hold on to all of these beliefs or just one or two of them, let's break these beliefs, let's dissolve them, raise the limits that you have so that you can start to feel more and have more and appreciate more. And the first thing you need to do is have awareness to these limits that are stopping you and that are coming into your life. Because unless you build awareness to something, you cannot change something that you do not see. You cannot lift something that you do not see if you're invisible to it. So building awareness around these moments when they come into your life, the feelings that you get when they happen, start to recognize and stop yourself for a minute and be like, I'm hitting an upper level. If an argument starts to break out after a really incredible day, like, this is me hitting my upper limit. This has nothing to do with the actual argument itself. I'm just hitting an upper limit and my nervous system is trying to bring me back down. I do want to point out that it doesn't always need to be the same. If you get a raise, then a bill comes out. Sometimes it's something else in that area because, getting a raise, you feel good, but your nervous system isn't used to feeling that good. So you need to, self-sabotage somewhere, and you'll sabotage in relationships, right? You might have this belief that you can't have both wealth and a healthy relationship. You can only have one. So if one of them is exceeding and doing well and you're in a healthy relationship, then all of a sudden your finances crash. Or if your finances are doing well, then you wreck all the relationships around you and you nitpick everybody until they leave and you push everybody away, right? It's all about those levels of feelings and kind of what the beliefs that you have around those. So the first thing is build awareness. Try to point out when something quote unquote negative is happening. Be like, this is just me hitting my upper limit. And before you react, before you respond, before you do anything, once you've had that awareness, pause in it. You need to feel safe in these new levels that you are hitting. The goal is to regulate your nervous system. So don't react. Tell yourself you're safe to be here. You're safe to have this amount of money. You're safe to feel this good. Sit with the success. Sit with the gratitude. Sit with the feelings that you have, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, no matter how much that little voice inside of you is saying, I shouldn't feel this good or something bad's about to happen. Push those thoughts aside. Be like, thank you, but they can leave. You're safe in this new frequency, in this new space, in the new environment, in the new levels that you're hitting. You're allowed to be here. You deserve to be here. This is your right to be here. And then change the story. You're allowed to rewrite the story for yourself. You put in a new belief. No longer tell yourself like, oh, bad things happen after something good. No. The new story is, maybe this is me hitting my upper limits. What is this trying to tell me? This is just my old story, my old frequency trying to keep me here. This has nothing to do with who I am right now. This is a test from the universe because I'm hitting these new levels, being like, can you maintain this new frequency? Can you maintain these new levels? Can you feel safe with these new feelings? And the answer is yes. You're totally allowed to feel safe in these feelings. You're allowed to have that gratitude and the healthy relationship and the money. You're supposed to. The goal is, though, to regulate yourself, to feel safe in all these areas. And then anchor it. Anchor that feeling that you have. Sit in that feeling so that it's cemented down, so that you can't be pulled back into the feelings of less and lack, like you were a burden or that you're disloyal to your family. All of those feelings that are holding you back, you're anchored in the new frequency, in the new feeling. Something else that you can do is meditate if you're somebody that likes meditating, or practice visualization. I'm a big fan of visualizing. But you can visualize yourself and meditate on you being in a very confined small space. You've closed in, and you're visualizing the doors opening up, the walls opening up, that you're breaking free. You're raising the ceilings. You're going into a space that is larger, that is bigger. These pathways and doors are opening up to you, and you're expanding, and you walk out of this room. And as the further away you walk out of this very small room, the bigger the space gets. And you can wave back to your past self that's in this tiny little room and be thankful for them, but you no longer need to be in that space anymore. It's a really good visualizing technique that you can do to help yourself break through these limits and these past beliefs that you have. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode. I am excited to see you in the next one, and I hope you all have an incredible day.